The autumn mist clings to your uniform as you march with the Grande Armée through the German countryside in November 1805. Your boots find their rhythm on the muddy roads, joining the steady percussion of 68,000 French soldiers moving eastward toward their destiny. The weight of your musket rests familiar against your shoulder, and your breath forms small clouds in the crisp morning air as you follow Napoleon's eagles toward the distant Austrian frontier. You remember the long months spent at Boulogne, drilling endlessly on the beaches overlooking the English Channel, preparing for an invasion that would never come. The salt air had filled your lungs then, and the sound of waves against the shore had become your constant companion. But Admiral Nelson's victory at Trafalgar changed everything, and now you find yourself part of a different campaign entirely, marching inland toward Vienna, through valleys that grow more foreign with each passing day. The countryside of Bavaria spreads before you like a vast tapestry of amber fields and dark forests. Your fellow soldiers speak in hushed tones of the Austrian army under General Mack that waits somewhere ahead near Ulm. The cold morning air carries the scent of wood smoke from distant villages, and you pull your greatcoat tighter around your shoulders as you continue the endless march. The sound of wagon wheels creaking over stone and the gentle snorting of horses creates a lulling rhythm that seems to blend with the soft murmur of thousands of voices speaking in low, reverent tones. At Ulm, you witness Napoleon's genius unfold like a perfectly choreographed dance. The Austrian forces under Karl Mack had positioned themselves in what they believed to be an impregnable position, expecting the emperor to besiege them directly. Instead, you find yourself part of an elaborate flanking maneuver that carries you through Württemberg and Franconia in columns that converge like the fingers of a closing fist. The autumn leaves crunch softly beneath your feet as you move through forests painted in shades of gold and crimson, and the distant sound of church bells from hidden villages creates a peaceful counterpoint to the martial rhythm of your advance. The crossing of the Danube near Dannenwörth fills you with quiet awe as you watch your comrades ford the cold, swift-flowing river. The water laps gently against the makeshift pontoon bridges, and you feel the slight sway beneath your feet as you cross with your regiment. The Austrian positions seem almost dreamlike in the distance, their white uniforms barely visible through the morning haze that rises from the river valley. When Mack finally surrenders on October 20th, you feel the collective exhale of thousands of soldiers as tension dissolves into the crisp autumn air. Vienna welcomes you on November 13th with the soft glow of gaslights reflecting off wet cobblestones. The ancient city seems to breathe history from every weathered stone facade, and you find yourself quartered in buildings that have stood for centuries. The sound of your boots echoes softly through narrow streets as you patrol the captured Austrian capital, and the aroma of fresh bread from early morning bakeries mingles with the ever-present scent of horse leather and gunpowder that follows armies everywhere they go. But Vienna is only a way station on your journey toward greater destiny. As November fades into December, you find yourself marching northward toward Brunn, where Napoleon has chosen to make his stand against the combined forces of Austria and Russia. The winter landscape stretches endlessly before you, fields of stubbled grain covered in morning frost that crunches softly beneath thousands of marching feet. Your breath steams in the cold air, and you wrap your hands around the warm metal of your musket barrel, drawing comfort from its familiar weight and the steady rhythm of your measured steps. The concentration of forces behind the Goldback River creates an atmosphere of quiet anticipation that spreads through the ranks like morning mist. You help establish the camp in the valleys west of the heights, and the familiar routines of military life bring comfort even in this foreign landscape. The sound of axes cutting firewood echoes through the winter air, and the smoke from countless cooking fires creates a hazy canopy over the entire encampment. Your mess tin warms your hands as you share a simple meal of bread and soup with your comrades, the taste made sweeter by the knowledge that tomorrow may bring battle. The approach of Marshal Devout's Third Corps on the night of December first fills the camp with quiet excitement. These veterans have marched nearly 70 miles in just 48 hours, their faces drawn with exhaustion, but their eyes bright with determination. You watch them file into camp in the darkness, their boots splashing through puddles of melted frost as they find places among the existing bivouacs. The soft murmur of reunited comrades greeting each other drifts across the encampment like a gentle lullaby, and you feel the strength of the army growing around you with each new arrival. Your campfire crackles peacefully in the December evening as you clean your musket and check your cartridge box one final time. The flames dance hypnotically, casting warm shadows across the faces of your messmates as they go through their own quiet preparations. Someone produces a deck of worn cards, and you play a few hands by firelight, the soft sound of shuffling and dealing, creating a rhythm as familiar as your own heartbeat. The distant sound of similar gatherings echoes across the camp, thousands of small fires twinkling like earthbound stars in the winter, darkness that surrounds your army like a protective blanket. Napoleon himself walks among the soldiers that evening, and you catch a glimpse of him as he passes near your fire. His presence seems to radiate calm confidence, and his words to nearby soldiers carry clearly through the still night air. The emperor speaks of the coming battle with the certainty of a man who has already seen victory, written in the movements of his enemies. His voice holds a quality that makes you believe absolutely in tomorrow's success, and you settle into your blankets with a sense of peaceful anticipation rather than the fear that might grip lesser men facing such overwhelming odds. The straw from your bedding has been twisted into makeshift torches by soldiers throughout the camp, creating a sea of flickering lights that stretch as far as you can see in the December darkness. The Allied scouts watching from the Pratzen Heights mistake this illumination for signs of a French retreat, just as Napoleon intended. You smile to yourself as you lie wrapped in your wool blanket, knowing that tomorrow's battle will begin with the enemy, already deceived by your emperor's masterful strategy. The sound of wind moving through the winter grass creates a gentle whisper that carries you toward sleep. Sleep comes fitfully in the pre-dawn hours of December 2nd, filled with dreams of home and the soft voices of loved ones calling your name across fields of summer wheat. You wake to the distant rumble of artillery and the soft commands of officers preparing their men for what history will remember as the Battle of the Three Emperors. The morning mist rises from the gold bach like ghostly fingers reaching toward the lightening sky, and you can hear the splash of water as Austrian and Russian columns begin their advance toward the villages of Telnitz and Sokolnitz in the pre-dawn darkness that still cloaks the battlefield. Your position with Marshal Soult's corps places you in the center of Napoleon's carefully planned formation, facing the mysterious heights of Pratzen that rise like sleeping giants from the morning fog. The weight of your musket feels reassuring in your hands as you form ranks with your regiment, and the familiar ritual of checking flints and adjusting equipment creates a meditative calm that settles over the entire formation like morning dew. The soft conversations of soldiers preparing for battle blend with the distant sound of drums and the gentle nickering of horses as cavalry units take their positions in the growing light. As dawn breaks over the battlefield with fingers of pale gold touching the eastern horizon, you can see General Legrand's division stretched thin along the right flank, holding the marshy ground near the Goldbach with remarkable composure. The sound of musket fire begins to echo from the villages as the Austrian advanced guard engages the French defenders, and you watch columns of Russian infantry advancing through the morning mist like dark rivers flowing toward the sound of battle. The fighting at Telnitz grows more intense with each passing minute, and you can see the flash of bayonets and the drift of powder smoke rising above the frosted rooftops. Marshal Devout's Third Corps performs magnificently on the right wing, holding more than 40,000 enemy troops with just 12,500 men. From your position in the center, you can see the ebb and flow of battle as attack follows, counterattack around the contested villages that guard the southern approaches to the battlefield. The sound of artillery mingles with the crack of musketry to create a symphony of war that somehow seems distant and dreamlike in the cold morning air. The courage of your comrades fills you with quiet pride as you watch them hold their positions against overwhelming odds with the steadiness that marks true soldiers of France. The critical moment arrives when Napoleon sends your division forward toward the Pratzen Heights in the attack that will decide the fate of empires. General Saint-Hilaire leads the right center, while General Vandamme commands the left, and you advance with steady determination up the slopes that the enemy has foolishly abandoned in their eagerness to attack the French right wing. The morning mist swirls around your ankles as you climb the gentle grade, and the sound of your regiment's drums provides a rhythmic heartbeat that seems to pulse in perfect time with your own breathing and the measured tread of thousands of boots on frozen ground. The Russian forces under the veteran General Kutuzov react quickly to your unexpected advance, and the fighting on the plateau becomes intense and desperate as they realize their fatal error. You fire your musket into the ranks of Collerat's Austrian column, the familiar kick against your shoulder and the acrid smell of powder smoke, bringing a strange sense of calm focus that settles over you like armor. The process of reloading becomes automatic in the heat of battle-tier cartridge with your teeth. Pour powder down the barrel, ram ball and wadding hole. Prime the pan, cock the musket, aim, fire a meditative sequence. Repeat it until your movements flow like water over stone. General Miloradovic's Russians fight with desperate courage against Vandamme's division on your left, and you can see the flash of sabers and the surge of infantry columns locked in deadly combat across the contested heights. The sound of men shouting orders in Russian creates an exotic counterpoint to the familiar French commands that echo across the plateau, and the winter air fills with the visible breath of thousands of soldiers engaged in the ancient dance of battle. Yet even in the midst of this violent struggle, there is something almost peaceful about the methodical nature of your duties as a soldier of the Grande Army trained to perfection. The Russian Imperial Guard makes a final desperate attempt to retake the crucial plateau, advancing with their tall bearskin caps and perfect formations that seem to glide across the frozen ground like ghosts from another age. The Grand Duke Constantine leads them personally, his uniform brilliant with gold braid that catches the pale December sunlight, and for a moment the outcome seems uncertain as these elite troops crash into your ranks with the force of an avalanche. But then you see the familiar blue uniforms and gleaming brass of Napoleon's own Imperial Guard advancing to support your position, their measured step and fixed bayonets bringing immediate reassurance to every man on the line. Marshal Bessieres leads the Guard cavalry in a charge that breaks the Russian Chevalier Guards, and you watch in awe as these magnificent horsemen sweep across the plateau like a tide of steel and leather flowing downhill. The thunder of hundreds of hooves on frozen ground creates a rhythm that seems to echo in your chest, and the sight of curved sabers flashing in the pale December sunlight fills you with fierce pride in your army and your emperor. The enemy cavalry breaks and flees toward Austerlitz, leaving the field littered with the debris of their defeat and the abandoned standards of regiments that will never reform. From your hard-won position on the captured heights, you can see the entire battlefield spread below like a living map drawn in smoke and fire. The Allied army has been cut cleanly in two, with their left wing trapped against the marshy ground around the Goldbach, while their right wing retreats in growing disorder toward the village of Austerlitz. The sound of French artillery, positioned on the commanding plateau, echoes across the valley like thunder, and you watch as cannonballs tear gaps in the fleeing enemy columns that stream across the winter landscape. The sight fills you not with bloodlust, but with quiet satisfaction at a tactical masterpiece perfectly executed. The retreat toward the Sachon Pond becomes a scene of terrible beauty as French guns methodically break the ice and send enemy soldiers plunging into the dark water that reflects the pale winter sky. The sound of cracking ice mingles with cries of distress that seem to fade quickly in the cold air. But even this tragic scene seems dreamlike and distant as you stand among your victorious comrades on the heights that command the entire battlefield. The winter sun breaks through the clouds, casting long shadows across the scene and illuminating the drifting powder smoke in shades of gold and silver that transform the landscape into something almost ethereal. As the battle winds toward its inevitable conclusion, you help tend the wounded and collect the abandoned enemy equipment scattered across the plateau like the debris of empire. More than 130 artillery pieces have been left behind by the fleeing allies, and you run your hands over the cold bronze of captured Austrian cannons, feeling the weight of history in these silent instruments of war that will never again fire at French soldiers. The contrast between the morning's violence and the peaceful afternoon that follows creates a sense of profound calm that settles over the battlefield like a gentle blanket of snow. The casualty reports filter through the ranks as evening approaches with its promise of rest. 15,000 enemy killed or wounded, 11,000 captured, against only 9,000 French losses from the entire army. These numbers seem abstract and distant as you sit by your evening fire, sharing a simple meal of bread and wine with your surviving messmates, while the stars begin to appear in the clear December sky. The taste of victory is sweeter than any feast prepared in the finest kitchens of Paris, and the warmth of accomplishment spreads through your chest as you contemplate what you have achieved under Napoleon's brilliant guidance. Emperor Francis of Austria signs an armistice on December 6th, formally ending the War of the Third Coalition, and you watch the broken Russian army withdraw under a flag of truce that flutters white against the winter landscape. The sight of their retreat fills you not with triumph, but with quiet respect for brave men who fought with honor despite their defeat at the hands of superior strategy and tactics. The winter landscape seems to breathe peace as the sounds of war fade into memory, replaced by the gentle murmur of soldiers sharing stories around countless campfires that dot the countryside like fallen stars. Your emperor addresses the army in the days following the battle, and his words ring with the authority of absolute victory, achieved through the courage and skill of ordinary French soldiers. I promised you a great battle to avenge the insults to our eagles, and you have given me immortal glory that will echo through the centuries. The sound of cheering echoes across the camp, but even in celebration, there is something peaceful and measured about the way French soldiers acknowledge their triumph. You have been part of something larger than yourself, a moment when history pivoted on the actions of common men doing extraordinary things under extraordinary leadership. As you prepare for the long march back toward the familiar soil of France, you fold your battle-stained uniform with the same care you would give to the most precious silk, and you clean your faithful musket one final time with the attention it deserves. The weapon that served you so faithfully at Austerlitz has earned the same meticulous care you would give to any treasured family heirloom. The familiar ritual of maintenance brings a sense of closure to your experience, marking the transition from soldier in battle to soldier at peace, carrying the memory of victory like a warm flame in your heart. The winter stars shine down on the battlefield where you made history alongside the greatest military genius the world has ever known, and their gentle light seems to bless the ground where the Grande Armée proved its worth against the combined might of two ancient empires. You pull your wool blanket close and settle into the deep sleep of the victorious, knowing that you have witnessed Napoleon at the absolute height of his powers and played your own small but essential part in one of the greatest victories in the long annals of military history. The sound of wind moving through the winter grass creates a lullaby that carries you toward dreams of home and the peaceful satisfaction that comes only to those who have done their duty with honor and courage. Tomorrow will bring new marches and new challenges as the Grande Armée returns to France in triumph. But tonight, you rest as a soldier who has seen his emperor's genius triumph over seemingly impossible odds through careful planning and flawless execution. The memory of Austerlitz will warm you through many cold nights to come, a reminder that ordinary men can achieve extraordinary things when they serve under extraordinary leadership and fight for a cause greater than themselves. The battle is won, the enemy is defeated, and you have earned your place in the golden annals of military glory that will echo through the centuries like the gentle rhythm of your own peaceful breathing as sleep finally claims you completely in the quiet darkness of a world at peace.